All right. Episode 91. Howard Palmer on the episode. The only black cosmonaut. And if you guys are watching video, you might notice new studio, new home, basically is what that means for yours truly. So excited about that. And hopefully we talk about some other changes and things down the road. For now, though, let's get right into it. So Howard's a parkour practitioner and stuntman, yogi. He's a meditation and mindfulness teacher and student, you know, as the education sort of never ends. And we talk a little about that. You know, he's a self-care and wellness advocate, and he's got all these tools for helping people kind of discover more about who they are in that cosmic sense. In fact, his book is coming out today, I think, as this launches and is published, called The 100 Ways to Be Cosmic. So that'll, of course, be linked in the description. I hope you guys check it out. And yeah, we're really talking about our own journeys and evolutions through that process of becoming more cosmic, I think, on this episode, and just finding bigger identities for ourselves, working through, you know, certain pains and traumas. And, you know, we've hit these themes before in this episode, but I think we take it to a pretty high level and also a deep level with Howard, because he's got so much experience in this domain. So I hope you guys really dig it. He's also sharing in this episode some perspective on, you know, being a Jamaican-born man, moving to America, and what he's experienced here in terms of like attitudes towards race and things he's seen and had to deal with. So that's important right now, especially, of course. So I encourage you guys to just keep an open ear on that. And then, yeah, you know, obviously, you know, this is a longtime parkour practitioner. And so the things that we are talking about, and there are aspects of the world and the life that we're all living, whatever this realm is, this planet that we're living on, how they're reflected in his training comes up. And so hopefully those connections are nice and juicy for all of us movement-minded people here. So thank you guys for being a part of this one. Thanks, Howard, for setting us off here at the new studio. And let's listen. I'll catch you guys at the end of the episode real quick.
Welcome back to the Height Drop Podcast with your host, Brandon Douglas. On today's episode, we have a revisiting guest. His name is Howard Cosmonaut Palmer. And we're going to take some space to sit down with him and just catch up on life. Shit's been really crazy for most of us, and his perspective is always interesting. So on this Sunday, we're going to sit back, crack a cold one, some soda, and talk about it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for bringing us in, because now I don't have to do my own intro. I'll just let you do it.
You know, practice from my own.
Look at my fucking levels are way too off the charts.
Yeah, no, because I'm not talking loud either. So
well, you don't have to when you have true wisdom. You just wait for the people to listen. I have to shout like an idiot.
Different strokes, different folks, man. It's good stuff.
I'll change it in post. But anyhow, thank you for coming back.
Yeah, man.
Joining, being the first guest in our new studio of sorts.
Love this casa. Love this house, man. Really nice setup. And I would agree that 70s look, but the refined modern touches, like with the trimming around there. Yeah.
Cheap ass trimming. They probably
well,
I mean, I'm just kidding.
Here's the thing.
It's good though. It makes it.
The accent is nice.
You get good vaulted ceiling, or you got good ceiling height in here, and so it's nice to accent that, because it kind of doesn't show up as well. Anyways, interior design.
I see the flips coming.
Oh yeah, many a flip have been thrown in here already.
Oh yeah, nice.
Front, side, and back.
Yeah.
Flips using the pole.
Oh yeah, fuck that. Dang.
Dive rolls. It's
all
my
right.
own little studio. But anyhow.
Yeah,
man, it has been crazy, and there's really not even anywhere to start. I don't know what the hell's going on, but I'm just glad to be doing it again, because personally I was just like, all right, I just need to like start again, because I've been overwhelmed, and I think you've been kind of feeling the same way.
Yeah. If we look at like familiar territory with our movement, parkour and free running, like my commitment level has personally just changed. in a positive way, where before I was always committed to that consistency over intensity thing. But now it's when you think of an athlete, they have to really get into almost like a different mindset for a short period of time to really get that high performance intensity level that they want. So that's what I'm offering myself, but it's over the space of like something you used to talk about where it's like 3 times or not, three tries or die or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember in the beginning of that whole conversation, I was like, well, yeah, it's cool, but like, what if it takes 1,000 tries? But at this level, it's not just 3 tries, because I'm not trying it. I'm also talking about the things that I've committed to, making sure that my body is ready to be able to commit that if it takes 3 tries, that's fine. But 9 times out of 10, it only takes 1 to 2. And that mindset has really been helping me out with the space of what's happening with our external world and the things we have to experience because of it, and just my internal response to that. Yeah.
Would you expand on that more? Because obviously, you're a person with this black complexion who's a different perspective than I'm going to do. And
well, the whole
obviously, like, I think probably a lot of people listening, I've been thinking a lot about this stuff, and I am definitely scared a little bit to put my foot in my mouth in this occasion in these times, because I want to help, obviously, but listening, I think, is probably the biggest thing for me to be doing more.
And definitely with the knowledge of what's happening in America, it's reflection of Black Lives Matter and getting white people to really understand the idea behind the systematic racism that we exist in. And we've been experiencing from day one, and if we look at history and we talk about history, but it's not just one story, in the sense that it's not every black person who's in fear of cops or experienced that or have a bad experience. It's about shining a light on that issue that's actually happening for the people that's happening. It's happening to why, and right now predominantly it is black people, but there's been, unfortunately other race too, but mostly of color, who've been targeted for this, again, the system behind what these cops are doing, or the people in power. And the fucked up thing about it is that because it's so systematic, the people who are in control or win more in the American system are the white people, who benefit from it so much that it's unfortunate that some of us, or some of them, can't really see it in that negative way, especially if you've received it in inheritance. It's part of your life. It's just you've never really hated anybody because of it, and you may not even have a hateful space in you from it, but because you benefit from it in that way, every day we receive that pain. So it's a lot. It's a really lot to consider, and that's why the whole idea about defunding the police or breaking down the system, or the riots that happen, and it's the gun sales that have increased, the black people who are now going out and learning about how to hold weapons and learning how to get more into the internal space with yourself and start saving ourselves. Because again, we knew that here. I came to this country and I learned about racism. I didn't experience it as to the level of what you need to know it now to save your ass here in America as I did in Jamaica. We had white Jamaicans, Asian Jamaicans, Indian Jamaicans, black Jamaicans. You were Jamaican. Sure, there was a certain level of class where, you were rich or poor, but I didn't experience it again like that, like the way I experienced it when I moved here. My mother brought us here. So I don't know, bro. I think, like, I look at myself that I grew up in it. We definitely grew up in the ghetto in Florida and Georgia, and I experienced some stuff. And in school, I had to fight my way and stab some kids and do just things I didn't expect myself to do. But it was part of my survival, straight up and down. And my white friends or non-experiencing friends, whether they got it or not, like, I never really made it a part of my intention to share that with them. The years I've known you and the years I've lived here in Colorado, I've never told anybody my two times that I've had a bad experience with cops and got jumped by some white boys here in Boulder. Like, I've never talked about that, because I know from the space that I feel like I want to hold it from, it's not for me to tell you, it's for me to be a better representation to that. So I go around and focus on the positive side, or the idea that just because these boys wanted to jump me and it didn't work out for them, I don't go around, oh my God, you know what, and I'm sure you might. No, it's more like, all right, what do I do tomorrow? Let's go train tomorrow. That sounds like fun. And let's work on the idea of what happened, and then look to not put yourself in that space again if you can, because you can't really escape it. But just, again, it's a lot. And so my movement has been a lot of my commitment behind that, my way of transitioning through the internal and external experience, or talk about what could be better for me. And, outside of my movement, I have also a different practice that I focus on, and it's about the mental health and internal work and being a better person. That I think, because of like what you're asking, what's happening, we have to start individually taking responsibility of our mental and possibly our internal self, the things that we say to ourselves and we experience. Again, I'm 100% sure there's a lot of white people that have experienced a certain level of prejudice or a certain level of, that's racist, but they just like brush it off. Or they say, well, everybody says that, or everybody does that. Or, I know, but that's why I try not to. Again, it's been there. So the fact that it has light on it now, to me, it's like a healing. When you have a cut or you have to heal something, it's going to hurt. So let's go through the healing. And nobody can heal you better than you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's powerful stuff. And I don't mean to jump right into the. I think we both got caught off guard with the way.
Well, since you asked, but
I'm like, well, fuck it. I mean, we're here, and I'm kind of like, that's one of my, faults, is just like I don't know how to talk sometimes around certain things. I just come at it and then just trip over myself, like trying to figure something out. That's how I trained in parkour too. Yeah. I got injured a lot trying to learn lessons the hard way. But can you talk? I think it's interesting that you said like it's applying like this mindset. Your commitment to training is like the same, it sounds like, as some of the commitments you're trying to make to like your role in society. Is that like accurate? What I'm picking up on? Or?
It's mad levels, man. Because
and was it even accurate for me to kind of assume that it's related to all the the Black?
Well, that's what I was saying about it being mad levels. So we'll start again on the level that I believe you and I share a lot, is the idea of expressing our body with our minds. And in that way, it's an artistic expression. So we can look at the medium of parkour and free running as a way of us expressing our physical art with our mind. So from the movements themselves to the idea of what we can do with the movement, and where we individually take the movement for the representation of the moment. Like, again, that's a lot that we share. That's why we love to, or I'll say again for myself, why I personally like training with people like yourself who are committed to a certain level of their own greatness, and then the idea of the medium we represent, the parkour and free running. So that level of it for me, I can take home and then look at a situation like Black Lives Matter and say, that's really fucked up, and do my place and do my part as a black man, and then look at my white friends and be like, you know what? I'm sure that it'd be more important for me to have a certain level of wisdom to not try to dump something like that on my friend or person I can see as my friend, assuming they might care or assuming they might even know where I'm coming from. So the best space right now in my mind is to focus at what level we're at. We're at level at parkour. So when I go out, let's be the best version of myself in that. And if that conversation comes up or if that situation comes up, then let's experience that for what it is right then and there. But for me to like go home and be fucked up about something and then go out and then try to share that with the people I want to train with, that's not wise of me. And then if I can't go out, I don't train. I'm confident enough to say, no, not today, tomorrow. What's up with next week? Maybe later on this evening. So for me, it's about taking that individual responsibility, because I want to last. I want to continue having this part of my life, parkour and free running, as a representation of my physical and mental greatness, or a representation of that and how I put that together. So it's super important to get right with it. And again, we look at movements. A lot of what we're seeing lately from the people in Europe and how they're bringing it out, and how Giles and all these guys are pushing the level, and Storo continues to, like, we still have a lot to support and a lot to represent. So sometimes you just don't have time for that. You don't put it away, you just put it aside. And then you find right space for it. Again, like what I talk about, I'm big on the mind, and I'm big on mindfulness, and I'm big about self-help. So I opened up a practice and a brand to learn about your internal self. And I'm writing a book or an ebook or a digital copy of that whole idea of what it means to be that. And I call it 100 Ways to Be Cosmic. And in all honesty, I wrote this list like years ago, but I've always been refining it because it's been like to me, a representation of my space and time in my life. And a lot of these are things that I really believe in, and things that I still work through, and things that I've received from, that's my phone. Things that I've received from, like books that I've read. I love reading books, you know? So I want to die having gratitude. We talked about that in the last episode, or the last time we talked. I want to die knowing that I wasn't ungrateful for my experience here. And there's a lot of shit that can make you ungrateful. And a lot of things that can make you really just immobile. You have the mad anxiety, man. And the anxiety can be crippling. And you could just want to hide and figure out you're just going to live your day. You can do whatever you want. So if that's the case, I'm going to make sure that my wants are in reflection to service of people in the best representation of myself. And easier said than done, but that comes from mad trauma, dude. Like, I've had so much bullshit happen that I'm just grateful that I'm still here to share. And even if I don't share, just here to be here.
Yeah.
You know, and one day at a time. Some days it's like, fuck this, I'm just going to stay inside and not do anything.
Well, I'm grateful that you're here too.
Me
And
too, man. I appreciate that.
You know, I remember even our last conversation. Like, I've grown a lot. I think. Well, maybe not a lot, but I've grown an amount.
You're in a new space, dude. You're in a new space. Think about it like that,
and
dude.
I'm trying to elevate and like do some of the same things you're talking about. And I see like where you're coming from a lot more now than I did even just last episode we spoke, because I think I was a little intimidated by where you were coming from back then. You know, to be honest. Like, I thought about it this morning, and I was like, fuck, dude. Like, I remember just being a little bit like, I don't know what to say. Like, you could take it to different levels that I wanted to go to in terms of like talking about being cosmic, taking responsibility, and like what you're really going to make your life about, and like who you want to show up as. And I think, you pinpointed something which was like, with the, and dude, I love, TMP, whatever, Modus Projects. Hey, Giles, I'm wearing
one time,
get at it. We'll do a little segment about that. I'm all about like the big shit and people pushing it. And I love, and there's always going to be a special place for me and those people that are doing that, because I understand where they're coming from, because I was trying to do that at one era of my life, and you were too. I think that's why you get it. And I can be less intimidated now by the idea of like doing it for different reasons, doing it for more service reasons, or just like trying to expand who I am in different ways that are outside of that paradigm of pushing myself and doing the gnarly shit I've ever wanted to do or whatever.
Because that's the hard work.
That was actually scary. Like I'll try to like get precise with it. It's just like seeing someone who's like dedicated to the sport, but not for like, not intending to get better, not like really like caring if they're like super good or having this crazy impact or if people are watching, in a way, there's a piece of me that was like, that's intense to like, I don't know. I think I was a little bit intimidated by it, because I'm like, I think what it comes down to is you're scared that like, do I really love it like that much?
I say this a lot.
Or do I only love it when the eyeballs are on me?
Exactly.
Or do I only do it for like certain reasons, or, and it takes a while to become even aware of that was even a fraction, maybe even the whole pie of why you were doing something, and then accept it and kind of go from there.
True.
True. Not that, and there's nothing, and not to judge it, like that. There's a lot, like a lot of that comes from trauma, like it's seeking attention from people
what I like
that
to
you
think,
didn't get from
I like
mommy
to think
and daddy
that
or whatever the fuck.
If you're in love with something, or for me, I always say if I'm in love with something, I don't want to give up on it, right? And I fell in love as much as I stood in love and worked out my relationship with parkour and free running, because from the time I was introduced to it to the time I decided to embody it as a physical representation of my life. That was a journey. And you're right. I never intended on being anything more than myself. But then when I went through the waves of, hey, look at me, and hey, who is that? And hey, where is that? I realized that personally, I had to express different versions of myself. So if I decide to go to a gym and somebody recognizes me, I can't just be like, yeah, what's up? I literally have to be like, hey, what's up, man? How are you? And not that I don't want to, but you as an athlete know that you could spend your time doing projects and working on different things that you don't even have the space to want to personally train, or vice versa. Again, you miss just going out randomly. So I always have to remember that it happened in the opposite. I might go to an event where there's a bunch of people that I look up to in a sense, and I love their movement, and they have no idea who the hell I am. And that to me too is as important, because it doesn't mean my performance is less or greater. I don't have anything to prove, because I was already doing it for the best version of myself. And, we met here and you're like, oh man, that's really great. That's okay. And then you're like, so I really just work on me, and then work on that intimidation and that anxiety around it, because you experienced it with me and I experienced it with you. And, it's something that we have to personally work on.
Yeah, it's all like, that's what all these relationships like tend to be, is like,
and you have to be
wherever you like sense things happening, you're like where can you take ownership of those feelings?
Yep.
And then like work with them is like what I'm starting to understand is like how you can really advance. And
we're mad emotional, dude.
Well, I'm a sensitive cat, dude. I've been crying a lot lately. I think I've had a serious grieving like to be doing of like this old version of myself. It's taken years. It's taken like time to like let go of like whatever, because like you get wrapped up, whatever. Life is just all about change, and so like you have to sometimes go through these waves where you're just like, what the fuck, like you lose yourself. You
the
feel
true
like
leader
yourself,
can
like,
change.
All good
you
stuff.
have to change.
It's very good, and it's all just enhancing perspective. I think what you said about like being on this end, I'm putting it down here for dumb reasons, really. Like, but anywhere in this, like, okay, you're this big superstar, maybe, or you're like this entry level, or you're like this person that used to like have some influence, but now things have changed and the game's different. Like all these different perspectives is just like ways to enhance the way that you can see the world and like experiencing it. And like you said, they're just as equal benefit to like I mean, to learn about
with the movement. Even on my Instagram lately, I decided to say I was going to be arrogant about who I am and what I do, and being 40 and doing parkour. And I used the word arrogance, and I guess I should have used a different word, but I meant it in the sense of having so much confidence. I'm not asking you if I'm good or not, and I don't need to say that I wasn't. It's not like I wasn't aware of that, or that was a reality that I needed in my community of people. But I feel like, again, back to being black and being in America, I don't have that much space and time to sometimes even think about being alive. I don't have that much space and time to believe like I'm eventually gonna help people the way I want to. Sometimes I just have to like go hard. Like just grind and go blind, put on my blinders and just bust right through that shit. And again, we can have that sharing it, thought and example when it comes to a certain level of movement or a jump. But when it comes to a personal internal life, or the life I live here in America, again, man, I've had some confrontations with police where I didn't know how it was going to end, but it wasn't anything like what we're experiencing, God no. But it was enough to make me like, damn, I know if I was with my white friends, this wouldn't happen. And it's more like, and I've seen it when I'm with my white friends, it doesn't happen. So it's super, 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 super important to always try to find space for the difference and get better. Because it's not always easy to understand those certain spaces right away. And what I mean about it, again, is like if I'm in a space where nobody knows me, I'm a nobody. So what? Like that might be a good time to be a nobody, you know, other than to be the guy that everybody's staring at or talking to. And then now the police want to know, who are you?
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah. And there's like you said, there's so much internal things happening in all versions of that story. There's a whole meta version to each one of those. It's like there's the guy that eats it up, like, woo, give me the attention. I want it. And there's the guy that makes, or the girl that it makes them completely nervous, and they just like it's horrible. It's
I saved the nervousness
to
for
have
the
all the
movement.
eyeballs on them. What?
I saved the nervousness for the movement.
Yeah.
So like I'm like, fuck that. I'm not gonna go outside training, and that's the one thing I've always done since I've started the discipline of parkour. I've always trained outside more than inside, even when I've had realities where I felt like I should be trying to find a way to train more inside. I never let that stop me. Because coming from Jamaica and how old I was already 10 years old. I really felt like I had a sense of who I wanted, of who I am, maybe not who I wanted to be. So I couldn't come to another country and expect the other country to tell me who I was. It just was maybe an ego or a sense of culture, a sense of pride, or the Jamaican in me, or however. I just wasn't gonna America wasn't gonna tell me who I was. You know, if anything, I'm a conquer and do my best to, you know, love and share and all those powerful things. But I slowly learned, because I had a lot of pride in it, that even though I had a strong knowledge or a strong felt of self, there was still more work to be done in my representation of my community. So when it came to black people and living with and amongst black people growing up in America, I really tried to stay away from those who didn't do knowledge of self, who maybe felt the American way of living was the true or the way a black person was supposed to live, and that they weren't African, they were African American. I tried to stay away from those people because I felt like, nah, you don't get it. You're not, I don't know what you're reading, and I'm not here to tell you what to read. But this is, again, my opinion, that if you really understand what's happening here, this is not your home. And I get we don't have a home, and we're getting deep into that. But my point is, like, this isn't the way of life for us. Maybe that's a better example. So this could be our home, but this is not the way of life for us. And you can't think you can merge in and it'd be cool. It's never going to be cool. You really have to see that. But again, now we do. We're starting to see that. It has to change. It can't stay the way you want it. You can't celebrate a holiday and your God is white. You can't do that. You can't do that. And then it be cool, and then you're not okay with racism or police brutality, more specifically. You can't. You have to understand where you're at and what's going on, and then how we can positively affect that. So let's do that, you know. And my arrogance in that conversation was that. And I wanted to think that it was better to stand away from those people. But I realized the better we come together, the stronger we are. And that's common sense, but it's more of like, I'm not trying to wait on them or wait on anybody to grow a certain knowledge of self. I'm really just trying to be that representation so that they can see that reflection and have a stronger choice. Because that becomes it too. Again, rest his soul, Chadwick Boseman. Black Panther died. Of course, it's a person, but what he represented and what we find out about his life, Chadwick Boseman was more than just Chadwick Boseman. His name was Chadwick Boseman. You know, it becomes that. So again, I'm learning that for myself and my personal journey, that even though I might have my own convictions and my own personal things to get through, I still have to remember that I represent more than that, especially if I believe I've been given a ability to do something or a talent to represent something. So I go in. And if I'm curious about something, I don't ask about anybody's opinion. But that's not necessarily a way of thinking, you know, in the sense of what's happening to us, because I've been told that once. Why are you always doing that? That's that white shit, you know, or who do you think you are? Especially with parkour.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, it is not known for anybody of color to be better in or be in parkour, you know. So the reality of it, me still holding my personal space with it and sharing and still looking to get good, to be in this space, it's really just a state of mind. My age is important to me. 40 is cool. And if I look externally, whatever, but it's my state of mind. I'm at more peace here and every year than I was when you met me 5 years ago in that apex over there, and it was that dead of winter, and I'm like, oh, cool, I'm here now. And you're like, oh yeah, we're cool, you're here now. And I was coming off of a different life. So my state of mind had to change, and I'm no longer an engineer working in IT doing that architectural. I don't choose to do that anymore. And for me, that's important to be so much more confident in that. So when I share and grow and expand with others, it's easier for them to know who I am. And maybe they can learn from that too and understand that there's many sides to the story. And it's important to love your story and love your journey and look to share it with others when you can. Not everybody's wants to share, but for those who want to share and those who want to learn.
Yeah.
We're going in different circles, but I'm
like, I don't know what to pick out of that right now, but yeah, I think it's like,
well, you said you were saying how you've really changed and your state of mind has really grown about yourself, and you were kind of asking me about or telling me about the appreciation behind that meditation and how I've turned it into something. But for you personally, you continue to grow with it and make it a loving journey for yourself. Again, like, I appreciate this new spot, and I don't live here because I can see the growth, and it's also bigger. Like it's the idea of seeing how your external world continues to represent some kind of internal reflection you're pushing on and working with, and whatever reality it might cause you. Like we said earlier before we started recording, man, I don't know if I should be spending my money on this equipment. Yeah, okay, that's a different space, but it's an investment, and maybe this home is not an investment, you could afford it, yada yada yada, but it's also a representation of that expansion, as well as this is. So it's maybe not looking at the money or the physicalness of it, but the actual representation of what it's actually doing. Now you can do more flips in here. Again, just like simple things.
Yeah, you're spot on, man. Yeah.
So you're growing, man, and I see that.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's tough sometimes to convince yourself that it's okay to be like these bigger versions of yourself.
Yeah, you gotta grow, bro. You gotta grow. You gotta grow.
And there's so many twists and turns. It's like sometimes the way you have to grow is to stop telling yourself you have to grow, and like some like crazy it's weird. Like it's such a balancing act, and there's such a fun ride when you start to, whatever. I'm in a place where I feel like I can start to accept the blows that are coming my way as challenges again, and just kind of like really embracing them. For a while, I think I was ungrateful, for certain things. And like when you're ungrateful, you're just going to get more reasons to be ungrateful, know? And it, like you said, the internal, the external, that whole way that you look at the world, a lot of this stuff, like as I was dipping my toe or just like hearing it kind of like pass by me on the peripheral when I was a little bit younger, it just kind of sounded like it's, yeah, that's true. It's cliche or it's nonsense or like whatever, which makes sense because like I was very on purpose at that point in my life, but I was also very unconscious about a lot of things. And so now kind of like winding into the like
circling back around
spiral. Yeah. Like if I'm spiraling outward or upward or wherever, I'm like seeing the value and the knowledge that's actually sitting inside these conversations. Yeah. And it's really exciting, and it's a little bit like nerve-wracking because it's like, oh shit, I just like felt like I discovered a whole new level of like,
well, we're putting therapists out of business. Is one
of my favorite phrases. But just like you want to see how deep the rabbit hole goes now, and it's like those things that became, again, and this is just whatever my story, and it's just something I like to talk about in my head. But I'm doing it for you guys out here. But it's like
we're the only ones here.
Yeah, okay. It's like things like don't work out often the way that you want them to, right? Or almost ever. And certainly, my parkour trajectory, I had a different vision of where things would go. But again, like these things tend to sound cliche, but it's like you really do start to wrap around and see that as like such a necessity for you to like learn this important lesson and get to the next stage of wherever your development is. And you become thankful that it didn't work out that way, because had it gone any further or any longer, like I would have remained as unconscious as life would have let me, you know, at certain points in my life.
And that's true. You never know sometimes, man. You can, I don't know. I don't want to know who I'm going to be more than who I am right now.
Yeah.
You know, and if I decide to change or grow or do better, then all praise due. You know, like God is good and, you know, I'm still here. But if I don't change, then to your point, I'll keep running into the same issues. Mm-hmm. They'll just look different. And then I keep wondering, it's all patterns, dude. Like life is all patterns. So I want the good patterns, you know?
Yeah.
I want to be able to have those vibrate to me without much thought, more than like understanding of my moment and my experience and what that means to me and the things around me. Like I'm very grateful and fortunate, and I know I'm very lucky in a lot of ways for my experience, because I chose it as much as I knew this is what I wanted. But then there were some hurdles along the way that I had to parkour over or under or through, you know, and then take the injury and come back better, because that's how I look at it. It's a lovely journey that doesn't feel good along the way, and I don't want it to.
Yeah.
You know? I don't want it to feel good. It has nothing to do with my feelings. It has everything to do with my my acceptance in that space. And if I feel good in that space, word. If I don't feel good in that space, word. Let's figure that. We have to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right on. Yeah, you talk about self-knowledge or knowledge of self. Is that kind of like what your 100 Ways to Be Cosmic is all about? Or how do those concepts relate? Because I think
that's a good question. You know, I tried to figure out a way to summarize the book. You know, when you read a book, you like, you know, like it has a this, you know, like the one book I love, The Mindful Athlete, right now,
I'm going to like squat down here.
Yeah.
Don't mind me.
Right now, I don't, from when I decided to write it years ago, or the idea behind it, for me, it was like the 100 Ways was like a journey. And you can think of Oregon Trail, I guess, shout out to the 80s kids.
Get meager meals, right? In the beginning, meager meals. You got to ration that shit out because someo's breaking their leg.
Right.
And you're going to fucking get dysentery. And it's the whole thing.
Right. So you learned lessons along the way.
Yeah.
But you kind of, the first time you played that game, sticking to the analogy, or even as long as you played that game, you really never knew what was coming.
Yeah.
You know, there were patterns you looked out for, but and why I use that example is that we were also very young, that our mind was very our minds were developing in a way that was reflected of our own personal life. Again, it's a journey, it's a book, it's a game. It's a game about journeying through life and being that pioneer. Again, if you turn that around and look at yourself, you know, you can see examples. So the book became that for me. So to say the 100 Ways to Be Cosmic, to me, that was it. And if I could sum it up, it's a list of ways to reflect back to you. And whatever that looks like to you, you will interpret that hopefully through the language. A lot of it is, again, I might have came to a point in my life, like, again, now in 40. I used to talk about, just because I'm strong doesn't mean I lift heavy things. I had to teach myself to let go of things that just because I was strong, I can handle it. So that is a space that took a couple years to really fucking understand. And
that's one of those traps. Yeah, I was talking about those things like, yeah, I've got this shit. I got everything. I can
and
handle
you're supposed to,
anything.
especially as a man. And again, if we look at black, white, there's so many men or versions of men on top of the men you want to be. And then to the feminine and representation of that, and within yourself, so many levels. So I don't know, man. I want the book to be a best representation of how you can see yourself in a cosmic representation, without it necessarily going as far as your universal aspect of your astrological or astronomy, or you know, or astrology, excuse me. Yeah, you know, like your sign and stuff like that, or how you think
I see it as bigger than that, actually.
And see,
way, right?
and that's powerful. That's your reflection. That's what I'm saying. I would love to be an example, or what people get from this book. It's not me telling you what to do. It's you learning more about yourself from my journey and the examples that can be for reflection up to you. And we learn from each other. You know, like I learned from my cousin how to dress nice. You know, like, but I also learned from my cousin how not to, you know, do certain things, go about certain things in life. So it's learning from each other. And I hope that's what people can get from this book.
Cool,
from
man.
this list.
And just to be clear, I haven't even read it. But
no, it hasn't been out. It's not coming out till the 10th.
Yet, but it's like, I'm excited for it. I do want to see it.
Thank
and
you,
I love
thank
the
you.
word cosmic.
Yeah.
It fits you really well. And it fits, I think, the purpose like of what you're talking about. Because I see, like, I think, and I'm going to try not to get too wrapped up in a tangent here, but like this idea we're talking about of like, we have to change, like, as individuals and as a society. We can't go back, and we can't really even get obsessed.
We can't keep
with, like,
going back. How about
we have
that?
to know
Yeah.
what's happening now and create. I think you said something about it, and I've been listening to books I think I might be stealing from right now, but like, you have to create what's going to be better. You can't like just...
You have to be an intentional manifestator,
like, but you want to be the
creator
example,
of
right?
your life.
You're not gonna,
Yeah.
like, naysay something or just like dream something up. You have to like live it out.
Yeah.
And like actually create this new paradigm of what people can look to and have a bigger choice, I think is the words you used, which is...
Remember that example earlier where I say, what I said? The world looks big from your bubble. Right.
No,
right.
So a bubble can make anyone look big. Or
A bubble can make things
make you look big.
Yeah. So, okay. So that's a good way to segue that in.
I love that. Yeah. Earlier, before we started recording, we were talking about how we both kind of have grown outside of our own bubbles. Like there's bubbles all over the place.
Right. And we were talking about someone specifically about how they were able to just be so confident in their space, and they've always been that way. And I just randomly supported the conversation by saying, yeah, man, a bubble can make you look big. and it's true, and the more you dig into the thought, so it's that, dude. Like, you have to learn that you create a bubble no matter what. Maybe we can use that example, but you also have to understand that you are bigger than the bubble because you are creating the bubble. So there's an in and outside, like you help to shape it as much as you're inside growing the bubble. Yeah. And whatever works best, you can be whatever space of that. You can be the God, you can be the self, you can be with God, you can use prayer, you can use meditation, but it's got to be a healing. We talked about that earlier. It's got to be that. A lot of one thing I learned just reading and learning about history and great people, like the greatest people, Genghis Khan and Alexander the Great. They didn't know this is what they wanted more than they knew this is what they were going to do. Like, they didn't expect the path to go exactly this way, but nothing was going to stop the path from going the way they wanted it to go. And being loving and being that type of person and being mama's boys and being crazy enough to think outside of the matrix, or the idea of everybody's going in one way and then like, no, I'm just going to do it this way and this is it. I look at that as a inspiration, not to be able to say I can live that way every day, but I can live that way with myself, because I can't go around. Look how hard it is to change yourself. I can't change anybody else right away. But the more I work on changing and being better at change and being better at self, then I can actually help people and or be straight up and down with someone. Yo, you need to fucking change, man. That whole shit is out of here. Whatever. And then be confident enough to say why and explain if I need to. But the world looks bigger. Things can look bigger from your bubble and from the idea of you're in control of everything around you, but you're not. And great artists talk about it, great philosophers, and you have to accept that. What if there's nothing after this? Like, what if what we're doing now is all we have, and then everything after this is completely different? Like, I believe, or I want to believe, it's for the betterment. Like, what we do now affects there. So I work very hard at that example. But what if there is nothing? Or nothing like we've can perceive it to be. So what am I doing here? I have to make sure I'm having fun. I have to make sure I'm grateful. I have to make sure that I'm working at being better, like straight up and down. And it's my responsibility as a human. It's my responsibility as a person on this earth to do, be, and act better. It's not easy. Fuck no, it ain't easy, man. I've made so many mistakes.
Oh, man.
But,
We
word.
all have.
I've made mistakes. And what? You know, I've also not made mistakes. Balance. The more I don't make mistakes, the better. Consistency over intensity. You know, like I love that I came to that phrase in life. And I'm sure it's been said before. I don't make words. No one make words, you know, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We share words and thoughts and language. So I don't own that phrase, but I own it personally. And I make sure it's a thing that I reflect in my practice, that it is that. And I'm going to last, dude. Like, again, I'm going to last. And if I don't, I'm going to die trying.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to last. And if not, I'm going to die trying. Like, I have no qualms with that because of my personal experience and because of the decisions I've made in life and how life continues to make decisions for me, too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Those are the ones that really get you. Get you growing sometimes. I mean, like, in really good ways.
Yeah.
Decisions you don't make. And I don't know, that's like when you start to pull in just the complete unknown and like theories about whatever we're here to do and what happens after, if anything, and how that affects what you do.
There's a lot. Yeah. I mean,
so it's really fun, but like, I think I love that you're talking about like knowledge of self and reflecting back and like helping people learn, because that's like what we really seem to still have a very hard time admitting to each other and to like as a species is that we don't know what the fuck we're doing here, and like we don't know who we are, most of us, and
we used to think adults had the answer, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And then when we became adults, or we're adulting out here, we realized, nobody knows what's going on. Nobody really knows what's going on.
No.
And maybe that's the power in the idea of not knowing, but it's also very scary, and anything can change, as we see from March till now, or April, January.
Well, and that's like the whole thing changes, right? And like we're,
year.
I think about what we, like part of the reasons I wanted to I've taken somewhat of a hiatus from the podcast.
Yeah.
There's so many things that play into it. Some of them were small reasons. Some of them were big reasons. And being like, the small reasons being like, man, like I'm a little scared, or I'm not feeling like disciplined enough, or I want it to be perfect, or I want it to be something, then, I wanted to eliminate like desires from it and like get detached and true with it again. But also there's like it's like, what do we need? What do we actually need now? Do we need me talking into a mic? Like, it's a question I was starting to ask myself more and more. Is like, do I actually need to be here?
Yeah.
And if I do, what do I need to be saying?
Yeah.
Is it for me? Is it for people that are listening? Is it for like a future that I want to create? And present that I want to create? What is it? So, and you're like, well, fucking, you should have thought of that before you even started the podcast. And you're like,
no.
But that's not how I did things. I just start things and then I figure it out. Okay.
Nothing wrong with that.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. That's like, it's one of my greatest gifts, and just like everything.
That's your strength.
Gift,
that's one of your
like
strengths.
Also, it's a double-edged sword.
You have to know where to put it and how to use it. It's a gift. It's a sword. It's a tool. It's a power.
But it's fascinating the time we live in right now.
Yeah.
I just listened to Mike Tyson and listened to some of his
stuff
on the Rogan podcast, and now there's podcasts talking about podcasts, which we're doing. We both have podcasts, and what does that even mean? Is is that part of the evolution? Is like we're getting more people that are just trying to speak and share, like you're saying, because we are needing that more than ever. Like, obviously with the Black Lives Matter stuff, it's like we need more people to be able to see the world from other eyes.
Yeah.
And
well, when you started your podcast, if I can remember, and then it was definitely to shine a light on just the everyday lifestyle or the everyday individual mind frame behind the athletes we know and love, right? And because you had that because you worked for that you could easily get those people to talk with you. And that's it. That started before the wave of having a podcast. So I'm in that space with you. Wherever we came from individually, we can both agree that somewhere along that journey, we both had the individual thought that seemed like the same thought that we're going to just go out here, record, and share, and whoever fucks with it. Then the reality changed. But that initial thought is what brought you into the commitment. Whether it was you just jumped right into it and then you're like, yeah. And for me, mine was therapy. A lot of my episodes were private.
Oh, I found out that mine was therapy like 60 episodes in. And I was like, I'm confessing all my sins and shit. Like, I'm like, this is weird.
Yeah, but
like,
now mine's the opposite. It can't. Now I have to, now I'm on that representation space. And I'm working with the people that are part of my network and giving them a platform and a support, so I'm learning from your previous episodes before it became therapy, how you work the technology and work the conversations to now where I can be more professional with my approach. Because again, I'm on my phone with mine. I'm just like, yeah, let's talk. Let's go. Let's do it. Pick up your phone. Let's talk. All right. Yeah. Welcome back to the podcast. It's really that quick for me. I don't have any kind of setup. But now that I'm stepping into a new ownership or a new space into it, that reality is that much more evident or has to happen on some greater level. And I have great examples around me of how it can happen, So it's being able to, like, I don't know. It's super important. I use that phrase a lot. That you're right. Should you be doing a podcast? For me, I didn't even care who listened.
Yeah.
I just wanted something to talk to that I can listen back to. And I had recorders. I used to have journals. I'd had different versions of this. So the fact that there was an internet version of it where I could listen to it anywhere on any platform got me excited. But then I'm like, it's kind of ego. What do you mean? Why don't you just have your own story? Why would you want it to accidentally be picked up? I say, you know why? Because I think subconsciously or in the back of my mind, I actually want to find my community. But I'm afraid to just ask, hey, there's anybody out there that really believes in manifestation and working on mental health and self, like what my podcast is about? And sure enough, there is people. And then now there's a wave of it. So owning that space enough, but knowing how to own that space and where you are now with yours and you taking the hiatus off, it's important. It's super important, because that journey or that part of the journey is important for someone else, like in this example for me, and maybe someone else in a greater way. So owning that. 100%.
Yeah, man. I love that. And I love that you're in that space and you're putting out that signal because like for me, I needed that. Like, I don't know if I would have brought it up. Like, we would have gotten to have some of these conversations if we were just always meeting in the parkour space. Yeah. But I'm like, all right, I can listen to his podcast and see what he fucking thinks about it.
And it took me to be like, let's do it.
I'm like, yo. And like, listening to you and Arroyo talk about this makes me remember I got to reconnect with him. Yeah. And so I'm going to try to get him back out on here because I love just all the places that a lot of these people are going, like.
Well, Daniel's very big on that in self-evolution in a way that he uses. Again, I would love for him to speak for himself on your podcast. So I'm just like talking about him as a friend.
You got to check that episode out. Your podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, your podcast is great. I've been listening to lots of episodes.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
That one in particular, if you're parkour fan,
well, it's about the masculine and feminine energy.
So it has nothing to do with parkour, which is like one of the best parts. That's what I was gonna say. Like they don't even say it the whole time. I don't think because, but it's like this is the kind of stuff that I'm into now too, and like I love this self-evolution stuff. Yeah. And sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I'm agreeing with you 100%. And the podcast is about the masculine and feminine energy. And Daniel Arroyo, who a lot of us who subscribe to Height Drop know who he is. If you don't, he's just one of the OGs in the the parkour community. He's definitely done a lot.
Generation American.
Yeah.
He was on Ultimate. Was he on Ultimate Parkour Challenge?
Yeah, he was on Ultimate
right?
Parkour Challenge. He body doubled for Will Smith's son in that
And
movie,
J-Lo.
and J-Lo for that one video. And
He was like one of the first Wolf Puff athletes.
he was yes. And
he invented the castaway.
Yeah, and
all right, he invented some shit.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just legendary.
And that Tampa Gap, like I'm gonna,
gaps.
dude. He created that.
He
jump.
created the spot.
Yeah.
He made.
So Daniel is just a wonderful guy, and I guess to speak on those examples that we just said, that individual, as far as I want to know him as and speak of him as, is that he continues to work on himself, and for his journey and things that has happened to him, he doesn't allow. Let's say he was really good at tagging at one point in his life, and then he realized he became much more interested in something else. In what I see of him, he never got too caught up in, I can't tag anymore. He might have learned to understand the energy behind that creative expression and put it into something else, and then be the biggest example he can in whatever that expands to even more.
Yeah.
So he just keeps doing that.
He's
how
brilliant. He's a genius.
He's really blessed in that way. I would give him that. And in the ways that he's not, he definitely looks to show up a better example or work through that. And so that's what the podcast, why I wanted to talk to him about the masculine and feminine energy in us and how we think that represents the world around us. And he goes deep, and he has this whole article about it. And again, I would love for anybody who's interested in it to hit me up and talk about it. And because I think it's a continued conversation, especially now, and especially in the space of what we're talking about, the mental and physical, the mental and internal work for ourselves. It's super important to understand, like, we have to continue doing it. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop today because you feel good about it, or it doesn't continue because you want to feel good about it and it hurts. It's a constant thing. And sometimes you have to be a little bit softer at it. And that is the feminine in the example given. And then maybe you have to be a little bit more aggressive at it. And then what that means to you. In America, in the society we grew up in, and as men, whether we're black or white, we are kind of conditioned to not be so emotional or expressive about the way we feel, much less be an expression. And a lot with how we grew up, kids of the 80s and 90s, and the idea behind homosexuality, or the idea about showing any level of femininity or feminine side behind you, how it was taboo, shunned, or pointed, or you get straight kicked in the ass, beat up for it,
Horrible things.
Again, and that has nothing to do with our race. That just has everything to do with our masculine experience in America. Yeah. So again, we have to learn to get right with that space. And he has taken such a confident approach and confident journey into it that when we talked about it on the podcast, he really introduced me to some aspects of it that I could never think of. And then we kind of shared some things that I've learned along the way. So I think it's, again, looking at our movement, getting women to be more of a strong representation, and women being more of a strong representation in parkour and free running. It's been that way for a while. Lucy up to Renee, up to, Sydney, up to everybody. And that Asian girl that just dropped that video. I'm sorry, I forgot your name, shorty. Your shit is mad dope. But, like, it's just being able to understand, like, it's not just external. It's still the idea of us loving and representing each other and supporting each other in that space, even when it's difficult, and even when we've never experienced it before, and even when it's possibly not even part of our conditioning, the things that we've been imprinted into believing or following or be an example of, like, for our parents,
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more. Like, those are two bubbles in and of themselves, the masculine and feminine.
Yeah.
And like, just,
well, they don't have to be, but they are.
They don't have to be, exactly. And that's like where you can derive a lot of power. And that's why, I'm not surprised that someone like Arroyo and someone like you are interested in these things and wanting to own that space wherever it is for you. Own the feminine space inside you instead of, again, like, you diminishing
denying
yourself,
it or denying, because it's there. It's there. It's just,
and
it's just the idea of looking at it.
Well, and for vice versa, if you think of, for any woman who wants to own more masculine space, or own more feminine space, or vice, like.
That's
Doesn't
my
matter.
next
It
thing.
has nothing to do with man or woman, but that's the kind of the point.
Exactly.
That's
The
where you need to
feminine and
start.
masculine has nothing to do with men and women, right? Because
So,
there's so many levels,
well, I'll get
Yeah, yeah.
Arroyo on here, or maybe we can do a three-way
three-way thing,
podcast or something like.
Yeah. I mean,
Because you can help facilitate, because you guys both know more than me. And I just want to listen to you guys do it again, really. So
we
if I can
plan
make
on
that
doing
happen.
another episode. It's
Oh, yeah.
what I wanted to do was take that episode we did and turn it into a conversation. And I
Yeah.
did. I was blessed. Thank you for everybody who did. I had people who actually responded.
I saw that. I
Yeah,
saw some of those
yeah,
responses.
yeah,
They were really
yeah. So now
love that.
it's to come back to that conversation, possibly off of the people's opinions and where we are now. But I don't, I want that to be organic more than I want it to be like something I'm intentionally pushing.
Yeah.
Because it is something that I think is important. And the more I get to talk about it, the better. And I'll never not deny that space. But again, what I was saying earlier about knowing how to share things with your friends and with people in a way that is best. I don't need to shove my opinion about it so much on you, then continue to open up conversations about it. So the next thing is that, you and him could talk, or you, and us can talk, and then go back over it in the straight up way. Because again, dude, like he's into
deep.
it.
He's so deep. He's so deep. He knows how to like build like electric batteries and stuff. Like he's just one of those people.
Next level dude.
If you think he's not doing something, you're wrong. Like, he's learning something that
yeah.
day, and it's gonna be. I love
and
that.
And what he's been sharing, and just like I said, I'm thankful to know him, and I think he's blessed to be here. And his journey that I know definitely didn't always constitute his personal happiness that he expresses now with his family and his life. Things happen and you can be sad about them, but he just chose to find a way to grow in joy in spite of it or with it.
Yeah. No, I think. Yeah, there's so much to do and talk about there, and man, I don't even know. Just he's another one of those characters that has like really blazed a trail.
Yeah.
And taken some heat, and he was one of the people I was talking about before we started recording, who's just like, who's able to like handle in some ways the negative attention,
the beef,
that comes with
the
like,
hate,
the blazing of the
Tim
trails.
Sheafs,
and
the Adams.
Tim Sheaf again was another one. Like, and I want to get Tim on here. I don't know if he'll talk to me, but he would be a fascinating one to talk to.
Yeah. That's a 5 hour. You got to split that up in parts.
Yeah, we got to do some parts on that.
All right, let's talk about part 1. Let's talk about just who is Tim Sheaf, and then let's talk about who we think Tim Sheaf is.
I just love all these people that I see. They're on this self-evolution game, it seems like, or they're trying to expand the bubble of human beings, not just like parkour athletes, like movement artists, men.
Yeah. Well,
women,
back to what you were
like,
saying earlier about the Mike Tyson podcast,
maybe,
or with Joe Rogan, like they mentioned how even Mike now at 45, 46,
I think he's 50.
54. It might be 54.
54.
Yeah, 50.
He's
I'm
50 fucking 4 years old, Mike Tyson.
So everyone's like doubting him, and he's like, do what you want. I know who I am. And using the analogy and summarizing my point is that who he is now, a version of Mike Tyson or a 54-year-old athlete, there wasn't a 54-year-old athlete like him 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40. There might have been examples thereof, but for him to be here now, in part with the conversation, he had to know who he was.
Yeah.
And he had to look at himself in the way of learning and getting better, because, the people who are familiar with Mike Tyson's story, period, knows that he went through different things in his life. So he had to grow, and he had to learn to let go and to still be who he is now, at least in the physical aspect of the ring. And now he's going to fight. Bro, like, and there's nobody on the earth like him.
No one on the earth. Yeah.
So again,
he's a completely different energy that like we've never seen before, and like that's what's so incredible. It's like, and I never thought I would live to see I never thought Mike Tyson again would ever fight during my lifetime. Because I didn't know. I knew of him, but he was retired, years
by
before
the time.
I was awake, and so it's just crazy to see that like. Because of the revolutions, like I call it revolutions per minute or whatever, like the amount of like information that gets cycled through because of the internet, like of all of our brains, and of course it's too much to pay attention to, and so often it's like just more important to tap into like I think that internal stuff. But anyhow, we're all just like learning and becoming more and more aware of just how strange and changing the game is. And like all these rules that we kind of thought, things that were steady, you know, like there is no boundary that like we really can put on reality. And so it's just like whatever you want to make it. And that's what these, you know, the Alexander the Greats and the Mike Tysons and the Genghis Khans and maybe not the less violent folks like the Gandhis and the other like
Charlemagne's
that's what
and
these
whatnot.
Folks are doing.
Yeah, you know
that they're setting a frequency that like no one's ever seen, or maybe that it's not that no one's ever seen it, but it's like I heard it described as something that we needed to remember or like remind ourselves of, or like if you think of the self as just like this big cosmic awareness, you know, there's parts of it that are in our blind spots still right now. Either they never have come to light or we've looked away from them. And sometimes these big figures, they come and bring that blind spot to everyone's attention, and that's why they have so much momentum and energy and
we're growing from each other, man. We're growing from each other. I heard it said once we're all just feeding off each other, you know, and I heard it sense that we're all evolving with each other. You know, again, it all sounds like growth to me. You know, and if I can
that's
just...
what life does, right? It grows.
I mean,
for the most
adulting
part.
Is hard, and that to me is a growing lesson every day, you know. And
I made it. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off. No, this is the last time I made an episode called "Growing Up." Like at the beginning of this season or season 2. This is probably like season 3 now, or whatever. And I was all in a good mood. I'm like, this is gonna be. I'm growing up, and like. In a way, I was intentional. Like I was committed to doing this.
Okay.
But that was like, it makes me laugh because it's like, and then
life
the
showed up.
Come. It's
then
like,
Mike gave you that one hook, and you're like, why am I looking at my ass?
But that's just what it is.
No. I don't know, man. We can continue journeying and talking, and a lot of what I experience is that's what it is. You talk about it more. I said it earlier that we're putting therapists out of work in that sense because we're doing the work ourselves. We're learning to get better for ourselves because whether it be COVID or life or pandemics and epidemics and brutalities and systems, we're really, 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 really getting a chance to look at what we are doing to ourselves. And what we want to do about that now is the most important step. And what we can do now is probably even more important, but that takes confidence. And it takes certain people, like you're expressing, they're talking about, who are willing to know that they have the light on them and shine it, shine it back or take on that light. Because we all get it, and we all do better when it's when we're forced to. But when we actually do it in choice and intention without the traumas and the circumstances, at times we become that much more effective, because we're using our gift and our talent, our ability to commit to a better version of ourselves to put back into the world. And I don't know, bro. I don't know. I don't have answers. I can just definitely
pontificate.
But
it sounds like you're talking a little bit about discipline.
Yeah.
And like, what are you committing yourself to, and bringing that into all aspects of your life?
It's so much harder, man.
It has but it has a really big impact. Like, I've definitely felt the power coming off of you, even just from a distance. Just seeing the episodes, the content you put out, the idea of like having people call in and sharing their responses, I think is pretty powerful. I think that's really cool. Like, place to take podcasting and again, because you're not shoving it in anyone's face. That's one of the beautiful things about it is like people are only signing up to hear more if they want to.
And it's listen, man, just talking schematics, statistics, just talking about life. I just don't think it has anything to do with me more than I have to make sure I'm right in it every time. And I'm thankful that I call it what it is, and I continue to push it like a shield or a representation. It's not the Joe Rogan podcast or the Mike Tyson it's not me. It's what I represent. I could make it the Howard Cosmonaut Palmer podcast. And in a lot of ways, people are putting it on me as to be like, this is who I am, but it is who I am, but it's because this is what I represent as who I am. So, that to me is the blessing in it, because people want to learn to represent themselves. You know, how can you be an entrepreneur or an owner of your life or a mother or a father or a parent or an adult if you don't know how to represent? If you don't know how to stand up for anything, you know, that you own without it being materialistic.
Yeah.
You own in your ability to exist. So again, it could be your voice. It could be your ability to do math. It could be your mind. It could be your body. Whatever it is that you just own, and you can actually project that in confidence and actually get some benefit from others with it. Word, son. Of course the ego gonna love that, but much more the spirit is gonna grow with that if you let it, right? Because it has to be a grow. Just because you sold 1,000 copies and you blew up this month doesn't mean it's like that tomorrow. You know, temporary. Does that phrase? Success doesn't determine, or temporary, whatever. You can't just determine what you get now and it be the future.
Yeah, you know that things don't last, and that's one of the beautiful lessons of these things not lasting and trauma. You know, it may be traumatic at a time, but just different kinds of trauma just teach you different things. And yeah, I think that is one of the gifts, is like it's given both of us, I think, an opportunity to like really look at, not for the material value, not for like certain things to be happening, but just for the purpose of it. Like, what do you really want to do?
I mean, we're human, dude. We got stuff we
hey, the ego stuff is fascinating to me. I've been studying like ego development models and stuff, and like I don't know if you've looked at that much.
I've heard of it.
One of the things that I think is relevant to this conversation is like there's a certain stage of the ego where you're focused on doing the thing right, but not necessarily doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And I think like that was a transition that I've definitely, I mean, there's 9 stages of it. And I think that's like 5 or something. It's like where you're at level 5 is where you're super focused on doing the thing right.
Yeah.
You know, and not necessarily doing the right thing.
Yeah.
I think I'm still waking up parts of like even stage whatever 1. You bring it all. It's not like you're like here and then it's a hard line to each one. There's just, you're moving through this.
Like a wave almost.
And
and
energy. Sometimes you're a little bit of all 3 of the ones that you are. Like one a little bit higher than your next stage, and you probably have a little bit lingering shit from beneath you. And then you're kind of mostly the bulk here, but it's all models. It's all just kind of like...
And it's working for you, or are you understanding at best how it's like...
it's
like a self-evolving tool, you know, like
super interested in it. I don't know that it's actually
all of that.
I'm not even like to the stage where I'm truly applying it to my present moment, but it's helping me understand my past a lot better, and it's helping me understand like the world around me a lot better. But it's not necessary, and I know it's helping me evolve too. But like one of the things I've really been into is spiral dynamics lately. I don't know if you've heard of that. That's one of the models that talks about how human beings and Homo sapiens, the species, like evolves in consciousness, and it just kind of lists out these stages: stage beige, purple, red, blue, orange, green, yellow, turquoise, and each stage like has emergent problems, characteristics, and kind of personality attitudes towards the world, and different motivations, like and different strengths and weaknesses. It's hard to like not judge them when you first start hearing about them, and like especially depending on what stage you're at, you know. Like some of them are more judgmental than others, but if you look at stage red, for example, it's a very violent kind of like take what's mine, like
rooted, aggressive,
biggest fucking stick at the playground wins, and just fucking like you know, it's like just violence. And it's not that's completely shit, you know. There's a lot of value in that. There's actually a lot of value in harnessing that energy, applying it in the right direction, but it comes with these problems, and so the next stage solves those problems, and they kind of oscillate back, which is one of the fascinating things. They oscillate between an individualist perspective and a collectivist perspective, which is another big division that people have, you know, like across like all these political lines and certain like things that are, you know, topical or just present in your life. Is just you tend to overly concern yourself with yourself and like what kind of impact you're having, and then you tend to make the other error and you lose yourself in a greater community perspective. But there comes a certain point where you actually need to start harnessing back and like giving some originality or some like original perspective or something instinctual in yourself from that, because there can be other, like you go from red to blue is like where religion comes in their model, where people could become really disciplined and they have like these rules and they kind of follow the rules, but they don't necessarily challenge the rules. And so then they need to like, it's good. It sets a new paradigm for people to like live inside that's more stable than red, which was super violent.
Yeah.
But then the next one is orange, which is like industrious and kind of like, you could say that America is very orange in its like current stage of development, which is capitalistic, materialistic. Like you're not like out to hurt anybody. You kind of want to follow the rules, but you're still in it for yourself. And you want to like make a big splash. You want to like have a big legacy, or you want to have like make a lot of money. You're very scientifically oriented and you want like results and you want to be able to see things. The next stage is a little bit more planetary and it looks to the environment and tries
What color is that?
Green.
And
so that helps people, or that you could say, you know, people are more concerned with the whole and they start to like see themselves in a community more again. Again, they go from community to individual a little bit both. They
oscillate, like you're saying,
And then, but that one again, then that one has, and they're really into talk about their feelings at stage green, you know. And so I'm very like, certainly some of this podcast was stage green for me, where I was like working through my feelings and talking to people about it. That doesn't always like get people somewhere. That doesn't always solve the problem. Is, you know, sometimes people will just spiral, you know, there where they're just like, all right, they become a little bit too bleeding heart. They might be like showing up to protests, even like doing big things that are really powerful, but also they don't always have the impact that they need to. They're not actually making the change. And it's not that it's misguided necessarily. It's just that it
still has its worth. It's just at a different space.
And this is the model too. It's not like this is law. And also I don't have the perfect understanding of it, but the next stage is yellow. And that's where they actually make another division, which is like, there's tier 1 and tier 2, and yellow is the beginning of tier 2, which is like where you start to integrate all the stages. And you start to see all the stages for what they are, and you start to see that there's value in each stage, and you start to like not judge them. Because one of the other things about like green, for example, is it still thinks that my way is the right way. Like all the stages beige through green, it's like, if you don't see the world the way I see it, then you don't see it right.
That's interesting.
And then yellow is where you start to like actually understand that everyone sees the world differently. Everyone maybe has a kernel of truth. No one really sees right or wrong. Like there is no right or wrong way to see it. And you know,
you have to find what works for you. Yeah, no, that's super.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I want to do.
I like that.
Like a little more thought on it, and maybe talk to somebody who knows more about it.
Yeah. Look into a book or find a Instagram and say, hey, get on my podcast.
Get on a podcast with me. Somebody who, hey, you know about spiral dynamics? You fucking study that shit.
Let's do it. No, trust me.
And
see, again, if for every 10 people you ask that, there's gonna be at least one that's willing to talk to you.
Yeah.
When you do the work, it works. You know, and easier said than done, but it still works. So I don't know. I'm always thankful. I love being able to talk and share. I really don't have any answers. I love that I'm able to write a book the way I want to. You know, this would be my first way of, and why I wanted it to be a ebook or something online that you can download is because I think like I want you to know that there's still healing available online. You know, as weird as that might sound, or if it sounds weird, we kind of look at online and social media as this external monster, you know, and then you got to kind of step away from it at times, which is a healthy practice. But not too often am I hearing that we're using internet or the online uses of social media for our healing or for our betterment. So I want to be an example of that, if that is even a line or a lane or energy to represent. But it feels good to me to do that. There might be a hard copy still, you know, might be like a coffee table version, because it's just a list.
The access is like a million, you know, not anyone can get it.
Yeah. And I'm going to put it on my website or make it available for download. And I don't want to change it. I don't know if I'll do another book, because I look at this as a list in a book. You know, it's not necessarily a book, you know. So baby steps.
Yeah, I love it, man. I think it's so cool. I think it's powerful to be publishing something and just like starting that process, writing, like,
Yeah.
it's just like everyone's got interesting things to share, and like you probably write differently than anybody else, and so I want to see.
I don't even see myself as a writer, but to your point, I do write and I do stuff, and I make music, but again, I give credit to who deserves it, right? And a writer is definitely what I don't think I am more than I know I enjoy writing. And if that makes me a writer, then yes. But I enjoy writing and sharing and learning. And I write for myself. Yeah. But I'm that one person I want to be happy when I write for. So if anyone gets that same version or likes it, then I'm like, hey, then that's two of us that likes this, and then, well, my friend, three
people, yeah.
But I don't want to get ahead of myself, and I definitely want to be humble enough to know, like, no one should care if they don't want to. No one's obligated for anything.
Well, it's just a whole new world we're living in anyhow. So I think it's so cool that, like, if I'm that second person, I'm just like, dope.
My mom's gonna love it, so there's three of us.
Yo, I mean, like, I really like I just like that I don't, fuck am I saying? I'm just like basically saying I'm stoked that I get to have someone do it. It's going on similar journeys, always, especially somebody I can, like, see in the flesh. There's people everywhere. And I think it's really
Max
powerful.
wrote a book, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Max wrote a really cool book. Who else
So-
is writing a book? Dom Tomato's writing a book, I heard.
Is he?
Yeah.
What?
Which I'm sure that'll be fascinating.
Shit, what is it called?
I don't know. He doesn't, probably like something with a tomato.
I'm the
and
shit.
then,
Tomato.
like a smashing, I don't know, what's something.
On the Dom.
Yeah.
I don't know. That'd be interesting to read. Shout out to Dom for
Full
writing the book.
send.
Yeah,
That's
full
too
send.
obvious.
Yeah. Maybe
just-
that's too obvious. Like, and then why is it too obvious?
Yeah.
But all right,
Dude, it's
man.
really exciting. It's just so exciting. I
good
think it's
talking
really
to
fun.
you always.
And let's go jump around. I think we're both getting antsy now.
Yeah, we might want to.
I wanna,
KOIS,
like-
like 314. Let's see what's going on. I mean, check with life. But I always like talking with you, man. I think the one thing I'm bad at is knowing how to stay connected with people, because I've never really stayed around, and my mom moved a lot. And so growing up for many years. So and I use that as an example to say how it was easily for me not to commit to people because I moved. And so as you get older as an adult, you don't really have friends. You have people you hang out with that might be part of your college, high school, growing up, or people you have from work and stuff. But that habit of moving around also kind of brought itself into my work life. And being an IT engineer like I was, I switched jobs a lot. So having coworker friends didn't, every 3 to 5 years, I'm in a new career path of IT or in a new company, and I'm traveling in one aspect of it, and for a long time. So I say that to say to how I get better. Parkour has been my greatest medium to find people and friends to connect with. You being that person that, we've shared 1 or 2 experiences in and outside of parkour. Like we hung out there and we might have, went hiking or just we're here together. And I think like that's where I want to work on getting better, by meeting parkour people like the Daniels, like you, who have personal experiences that they're working on and ways that we can connect together within and outside of the movement. But, I love rock climbing and I have people there too. So it's being able to still find the like minds and the friends with the like-minded individuals and just be able to grow together and work together and at least learn from each other. So this was great talking with you, man. I hope your podcast continues to do well, because it is such a high drop, shout out, plug, because you're coming from a very high space, from your confidence on the way up to your not so confident space. It's still a high space. You said it earlier. It's hard to commit to yourself in spite of everybody's expectation of you, and if you're successful and if you walk into an environment, like if you go to a jam right now, no lie, there's at least 10 people who are going to know you if they don't even announce that you're there, because they're probably going to announce that you're there. So you have that space to always deal with until possibly you don't. But then you have
I
a
feel
person.
like I don't have to deal with it anymore already. But I'm like,
But that's me looking outside,
Yeah,
because I can, and the reason why I can make that space is that, or that statement is that I can be with you,
yeah, no,
and I'm not gonna get announced. You know what I mean? So that's being able to say, like, we're still walking the same path, we're still sharing the same physical experience, we have history together, we have our own individual successful histories, but now in today's current space, it's still different. And then we still have to be different individuals for that.
Yeah.
So constantly growing, bro.
Constantly growing. Yeah, I'm pumped. It was really great talking with you too.
Yeah,
and
man.
Just like,
yeah, man. You're welcome.
I'm pumped to do more of these, and I want everyone to listen to your podcast and just
let's do
we
it.
all need to just keep. Yeah, I just want everyone to have podcasts now, so we can all have an excuse. Like, this is that's a big piece of it. Is just I love like forcing my friends to sit down and talk to me for like an hour.
Yeah, even if you don't want to do a podcast, just get with a friend that's doing it and talk, man. Just talk shit, and not necessarily talk shit, but just talk, just share, just open up, just pick something you like and talk about. Make it a game. Let's see if we can talk 30 minutes on something or an hour on this one subject, and then just have fun. And learn to share with each other. We are, as Americans, we hide in our success. We don't necessarily know how to share that with each other, you know.
Yeah.
So let's get better at that, dude. Let's get better at that.
When's the book gonna drop?
September 10th, next week, Thursday.
Oh, all right.
Like, it's like right around the corner.
Coming out, right?
Yeah. I'm working with my publisher, me, and I'm also working with my my what do you call that person? My proofreader, my mommy, you know, and some other family members, because even though I wrote it and write it and can read it and understand what the hell I'm saying, I'm pretty sure there's some, you know, things I might have missed.
Yeah.
You know?
Man.
So it's gonna
look at it 1,000 times.
It's ready, but I'm a perfectionist in that way. I wanted to like make sure, because this is the beginning. Once it's out, I'm gonna like spend a very long time talking about it and promoting it and pulling excerpts out of it, you know.
Oh, cool.
So it's not just, oh, look what I did 5 years ago. Y'all remember this book I dropped? Nah, it's like 5 minutes ago when I dropped that previous post about it's because this is my life lessons and journeys and spaces, you know. So it's a lot I'm putting out there, but, you know, there's a lot more I want to learn too. So
well,
let's do it.
I love it. I love what you're putting out. In fact, before I let you go, I have to ask because I'm very curious, and I hope I'm not going to start another 2 hours of us because I think there's probably enough there.
Shit.
But I'm very curious, like, when you talk about, like, knowing your gemstone, knowing your sign, knowing, like, your personality type or, like, these things, what do you think that does for you, like, if you could sum that up in the
just learning like external examples of you, like the signs and how you're born, or just you're a man and what that what does it do for me?
Or why is it important to know all these things? Because I've been curious to see like what else you think is important to know about yourself that's maybe not so you know.
Okay, all right. Okay, for the kids that are listening, go ahead and leave the room right now. You know, so the best example, the example I want to give, the best example I want to give as a man, and maybe it might transition into a woman as well. When you become aware of your body, you want to learn what it can do. So as a young boy, when your dick starts doing its thing and then you go through the journey of masturbating, that's a journey. And some men continue to do it in their older lives. So, and I'm not speaking for women, but again, we as humans can continue doing certain things like that. So obviously there's a space around that. There's toys, there's things, right? So it's not like it's not a thing. But it's not a thing that we go around talking about, but it's something that we use to feel good. Let's just leave it there, to feel good, right? That's an example, another example of the point of why do I want to learn, or why do I think it's important. It's because there's things that are happening to me that sometimes scare the fucking shit out of me. And I think certain things, or I experience things that I want to know why. I want to know why. Even if I don't want to know why, like say like I don't really want to know the answer why, you know, I still want to know that I wanted to know why. Because it makes me feel I'm here now. Every time I get conscious of that awareness of what's happening, and the more I'm present with it, I get a stronger awareness of my now. Like I'm here now. Mm-hmm. And again, with our movement, the now is everything. You know, at the beginning of the jump, in the jump, the jump. So I want to get better at being here now. Like really now. Whether now I'm here on the planet, or now I'm in Colorado, or now I'm in Littleton, or now I'm in your spot, or now I'm sitting on this mat, or now I'm inside, you know, however the now narrows down or expands, I want to be able to be present of that breath, you know, that vibration, that air of it as much as I can. So I learn. I share, I learn. And then when I don't want to learn anymore, my body, brain, and spirit decides to say, not anymore. And then I find other ways to express, you know, or I just sit there. I'm really, again, fortunate, grateful, thankful for my experience. As difficult as it was, I learned how to get present. And so now it's fun for me. It's fun for me because my traumas were like, dude, if you don't fucking get present, dude, you can die, or this is not good. You know, it's not healthy. And now I just got real comfortable with the uncomfortable thing of learning about what the fuck's happening with myself and, you know, with my life. And I use the masturbation example because, again, when you do it as a kid or whenever you do it, it fucking feels good. And you're like, God damn it. Oh my God, I don't want anybody to know about that. But you're not going to do it. You're not going to not do it again. So
I remember the second time you do it, it's like, what am I doing now? Yeah. And the second time is like, it's off
and again, we're not even talking about
first time you're like, what the fuck
sex
is happening?
or trying a drug. We're just talking about pleasing yourself personally, and you don't need anything for that. Put your hands, you know, and your imagination more so. Sometimes, you know, you can be
sometimes just your imagination.
Dude, sometimes it's, and again, for dudes, and sorry if the kids
dream,
are in the room. Exactly. Like, you don't even need your hands. So, sometimes
I God damn it.
No, let it go.
I'll save it.
But so again, that excites the shit out of me to be able to know that I can learn so much more about myself, and that's why I do it. And that's why I'm cosmic, or why I'm the cosmonaut. And I use the word to mean cosmic knot, meaning cosmic mind, an expressor or a learner of the internal universe and self. And then that's it, yo. And I run around with my space suit and I do my thing. And, you know, I'm fortunate enough to meet that dude, Jake, in California, who has its own Art of Cosmonaut brand that we just really agree with a lot of things that we're just working together. And it's just a representation of...
Cool.
When I met him, it solidified for me that when to go cosmic mentally wasn't just my idea. It was something that transitioned, came to me, aligned to me. And there was another person who I've never met before in my life, who's not even black, you know, who thinks the same damn way, at least in that same damn way that he uses the same damn word. He's also the cosmonaut.
Wow.
You know, and he has Art of Cosmonaut, you know, and he came out with Art of Cosmonaut the same day I came out with Art of Cosmonaut on my brand, on my side, and we didn't even know it. So crazy. I shut mine down, jumped on his ship, and say, let's do it together.
Wow.
It just, again, I couldn't see that, you know, and I don't want to use the masturbation example to connect that analogy. But if I didn't learn to be comfortable with how I want to get happy with myself and run around with a spacesuit and do the things, I wouldn't have met him, you know, or his brother wouldn't have found me, you know, and we wouldn't have connected. It's just, you never know until you get real confident, and then you become confident, you know, and then you learn that confidence is it comes from a knowing. So you just don't get so confident that you're blind. I don't know, like, the listeners can see that I just put my hand over my eye, but you're also confident in the fact that you can change. You know, I'm confident to know that I'm so fucking good at this that if I need to get better, that I'm gonna have to change, not stay the same because I'm the best. Nope.
Alrighty.
Alrighty.
Get him at the Cosmonaut.
Yeah. Only Black Cosmonaut
Only Black
podcast.
Cosmonaut.
Yep. Instagram, Only Black Cosmonaut. Height Drop. You know, B Dougie. That's what I call him, Brandon Douglas. You know.
How do you spell it?
What? BEDUGGIE? B Dougie? Or DUGG? Or DUGGY? Excuse me.
That's what I'm saying. Nobody knows. I don't even know what the real spelling is for Dougie.
Well, I always said BEEDO or DUGGY, B Dougie, or DOGGY. Yeah, like, you know. So because of Doug Funny, what's the name? Yeah. So
from Doug.
Yeah, yep, Quail Man and stuff like that. So like you have your alter ego, you know, and so.
All right. Much love for everyone listening.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you guys on the next
Bye.
one.
Namaste.
Oh, yeah. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks, Howard, for being a part of this one. And damn, we don't have anything else to say really except check out the description. 100 Ways to Be Cosmic. All of Howard's links. For this channel, I'm going to ask you guys to just subscribe if you're not a subscriber already, because you need to be doing that so you see when the new hotness comes out. And if you are a subscriber but you're not a 5-star reviewer at this time, then what I would ask is you wait until you feel 5 stars about this podcast. Maybe you feel like that right now, and then you go ahead and leave that 5-star review and you let people know why you like it. And most importantly, I want to know what it is you guys are most excited or feeling impacted by in terms of what we offer here on High Drop. And if you feel 4 stars or 3 or less about it, then you just don't do that. You just keep doing your life, and then you wait till you feel 5 stars about it, or you just never do it. But there'll be other ways to support the podcast down the road. Tell your friends, share it with people. I'd like to get just more momentum behind this, and so I'm going to be doing some more to try to cultivate that. So much love to you guys, and we'll see you in the next episode. Peace.